Welcome to Chat in the Commons, where we tear it all down, one sensible conversation at a time. I'm Natalie Blundell. I'm in the corporate world and also the founder of an online women's support network.
And I'm Elle Kamihira. I'm a documentary producer and podcast host.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we get started on today's episode, we had some feedback that our voices sounded very similar and sometimes confusing.
Which is so funny to me because I think we sound nothing alike, honestly.
I guess, but if there's a stranger that doesn't know us, and since we don't have video for our podcast, maybe this, the audience is still getting to know us. So we wanted to clarify. So Elle, can you explain who you are in your voice?
Okay. So I'm the deep-voiced Scandinavian woman who has a little Norwegian slant to my American. And you are?
I am Natalie, and I am the overly polite English woman. And honestly, that goes hand in hand with having a very dry sense of humor. And I'm the one usually cracking the jokes.
That's right. And I'm the moralizing Norwegian. That's how you can tell us apart. Anyway, so what do we got today? What are we talking about?
Well, we had in our last episode on dating, we had explored about the women saying no to dating and what that looked like. And in our prior episode a couple of months ago, we talked about marriage as well.
That's right.
And the women realizing that being in a romantic relationship often adds to their burdens in life rather than relieving them. So we're going to talk about being single by choice today.
All the aspects of living life on your own terms, bad, good, and ugly.
And I think breaking that deep conditioning and challenging the narrative that women cannot thrive living alone, whether that's financially or mentally or even practically.
In fact, I'm reading Rachel Hewitt's book, In Her Nature, because I'm prepping for an interview with her. And she writes a lot about existing as a woman in the world. And I think we're coming off thousands of years of living in patriarchal conditioning. So a lot of us are kind of stretching our muscles or rebuilding ourselves outside of that conditioning. Our lives have been so deeply shaped by men and marriage and the expectations that we have on ourselves that we're really just flexing our freedoms. And I think a lot of us are finding this huge craving for women-only spaces or your own space, so to speak. What comes to mind is, those videos where rehabbed wild animals, like a fox or a wolf or a bear or something, gets released in the wild, and they drive them out to some wilderness area and then open the gates, and the animal just runs like hell into the wilderness.
Yes.
That's how I feel. So that's what I relate to.
I think I saw one recently of an eagle and just opening that crate, and the humans stand back and she soars. She just goes up in the sky. So yeah, you're right. It is breaking that conditioning. And I think it's also rewiring our own brains as women. These neural pathways that are so set in stone, not even just from our own experience in our lifetime, but the generational download that we've received from all of our ancestors. It really is a rewiring to think in a different way, to have that internal shift.
It really is. In fact, Bell Hooks talked about psychological patriarchy, which is the man living in our heads that makes us adjust our minds, emotions, intimate relationships, how we're imprinted with patriarchal conditioning. And Rachel Hewitt writes about this too, is that it really disrupts our being independent and autonomous human beings, that it kind of prevents women from caring for ourselves in a world in which we're encouraged to always put others first. And that hampers our ability to see other women as allies, to organize with them, and to kind of mount resistance in any way to patriarchal powers. So it's profound.
We've talked about in the past episodes about how the patriarchy itself has pitted women against each other, to not have that sisterhood, allyship, to see each other as competition.
That's right. We are shamed a lot for, or we're discouraged, let's say, to tend to our own desires, our own needs. But I feel like it's like kind of the most important task we can tend to at the moment, where we kind of look inwards and honor the things that we need as women and as human beings. It's kind of an antidote to misogyny and patriarchy, I feel.
Yeah, when we talked about being socialized female in an earlier episode, this conditioning starts young. And it's not just by men, it's also by our peers and women when we want to focus on ourselves. This goes back to probably middle school and high school, where as a woman, you are judged by the other women for being selfish, or if you prioritize yourself versus spending time with your group. Or that starts young.
The whole thing of being selfish is such an indictment of women. You know, you really do get condemned for it. Selfishness is considered being very ugly for women. And I think there's another aspect to that too, is that feeling like you have your eyes on you all the time, which women and girls are also brought up with, that we sort of develop this self-consciousness about ourselves, that we're always being watched and judged. Part of us is always trying to gauge how we're being judged and seen from the outside. And it's very disruptive.
Yeah, and I think that is at a height right now with social media, obviously, for girls. So we're critical, and it makes me fondly think about, you know, I cohabitate with my two daughters, who are young women, and they're not children, and how much they all love, you know, after they've been out at school or at work and come home and just get in their comfy clothes, take off their makeup. They can be freed from everything out there in the world, and we can just exist in that space. And being single by choice, you actually get to do all of those things all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
You get to have your own space, and it's
right.
There is this TikToker who talks about the kind of unique joys of living by yourselves. The creator's name is Anxiously Alej.
Listen, brother, I just got back from an 18-kilometer run. I am 1 month out from my ultramarathon. Freshly shaven legs, moisturized. I am now wearing a dress. I'm going to take myself out for dinner, and I'm going to get a juicy steak. And the house is clean. Everything is clean. And when I get back from my dinner, I am going to do a full skincare routine. And then I'm going to crawl into bed with my freshly shaven legs, and it's going to feel so nice against my sheets. I'm going to light a candle. I'm going to hang out with my pet rabbit, and then I'm going to go to bed early. And I'm going to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and it's going to be the best. My skin is the clearest it's ever been. My cortisol levels are balanced. I have a jawline. Can't say I had that when I was in a relationship, constantly stressed out. And life is good. Life is really good. Fresh manicure. I love it here.
I just love how clear some of these content creators are. And they're just speaking from their heart, you can tell.
Yes.
But it lands in so many women. You know, if we're craving our own space or being exhausted and sick and tired of taking care of a grown man, so many women are tapping out of not just marriage, but also dating relationships.
Yeah.
If they come out of a relationship, they don't want to go back into a relationship. So they really are single by choice. This is a conscious decision. I just want to put my time and energy into me.
women often proclaim or say that their man or their partner, their male partner, is their universe. He's their everything. He's the kind of center of their world. You are never the center of a man's universe. You never hear men saying, she's the center of my universe. More typically, he is the center of his universe. But a lot of women are discovering how to be the center of their own universe. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Briggygee on TikTok, she posted something about Gen X women wanting their own space. And she's been flooded with other women agreeing.
Okay, here's the recap on the Gen X women with no retirement, no savings, no assets, no partners, who don't want partners, and how we're going to survive. It appears that we enthusiastically want a community of women. Tiny houses seems to be the biggest call. We want to be in a blue state, and we want garden space. And we also want our own space. That seems critical, but we also want community and to look after each other and, hang out when we feel like hanging out.
Yeah, so it's all coming down again to women connecting, women reaching other women and staying connected.
Right, and also pushing boundaries of what you can do and the endeavors you can undertake. And more women than ever are solo traveling, isn't that right?
Yes. Tour operators, travel agents, or the cruise lines even, they all report that there's a growing demand for solo female travelers. A lot of them are older women that have disposable income, or that they're coming out of a long marriage or relationship, and they're finally doing the things that they wanted to do during that relationship but didn't have the opportunity. They are putting that money and time and energy into themselves. Actually, Virtuoso, the travel agency, say 71% of solo travelers are women.
Wow.
Yeah, which is 8% up from last year. So it's growing. That's a lot.
And of course, women are vlogging and blogging and TikToking all over the world, just showing off where they've gone and sharing their adventures and so on. Young and old.
Yeah, completely. In the industry of travel, women make the majority of travel decisions and purchases anyway. So even if they were in a relationship, it is, the majority of women making those travel plans. I certainly did in my relationships. I was the initiator. I don't know whether you were.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't think about it, but we are, and the travel industry recognizes that. So there's a lot of focus to have an all-women's solo travel opportunities, and they have seen that there's a niche marketplace for this. So going on a solo women's trip, you can actually just, again, be in your comfy clothes, no makeup, and just go travel and learn and make friendships. And it can be so incredibly rewarding. And that's what all these bloggers are really talking about.
And it just occurs to me that whereas many may miss and want and crave the comfort of a partner, of a relationship to always have there, I think the mindset when you meet the world alone, you have no one to hide behind, so to speak, you have to connect with people you meet in a whole different way when you're alone. More open-hearted, I feel like.
But there's something too about travel. I often think that that's in a woman's mind. They're like, oh, well, I want to save that big trip to do with a romantic partner.
Oh, yeah.
Or my soulmate.
That waiting energy is very passive and absolutely a vestige from patriarchy, where you just sit and wait for the man to activate you. And I think that women are leaving that waiting energy behind. Just don't wait. Don't wait for the relationship to happen. Don't wait to be invited. Don't wait to do the things you want to do while you're waiting for a relationship to happen. Yeah, and this is what TikToker Healwithmegs had to say about that.
Something that I am a huge advocate for single people, myself included, is to take a radically honest look at where in your life you are waiting to do certain things until you have a partner to show up in your life and make those things easier to do, and go do them now. Like, basically to stop waiting or justifying why we can't have the life experiences that we want to have until our relationship status changes. This will show up in the form of like not taking the trips we want to take, or going to the restaurants, or seeing the movies, or going to the concerts that we want to do until we have somebody to do them with, like not making the memories that we want to make, and going and doing those things for yourself now, like taking yourself on dates and trips and creating memories for yourself just because you matter and your relationship with yourself matters. It's a beautiful thing to do.
As I was exploring some of the solo women's travel, I found some gems, and I definitely will share them in the show notes below. But there's, Wonder Tours, which is women-owned solo travel all over the world. There's Women in the Wild, which are more travel adventures. And she started, in British Columbia with 60 people on Facebook, just connecting women, saying who wants to go hiking, who wants to do this little trip. She's got over 100,000 members.
This is Women in the Wild?
Women in the Wild, yeah.
Love that.
I know. And they're just setting up these really incredible trips. And it's really helping women push their boundaries, constraints that they think they can't do things, but they do want to do some things, but they don't want to do that alone. You have this option. I love the connectedness.
Yeah.
I actually also found a women-founded digital travel publication called Unearth Woman.
What is that?
They were a magazine in bookstores, but they quickly moved over to digital, and they have incredible information on women traveling the world. And so there's a lot of vloggers there, and you can really get a lot of information. But what I really love is their feminist city guides. They supply a list of cities around the world of women and BIPOC-owned businesses. So you can go to the restaurant owned by the women. You can stay at the hotel owned by the women. You can do the travel tours by the women. So it's really brilliant. Kind of giving love back into the travel industry, women for women type of thing.
Now, obviously, women traveling alone, like doing anything alone, have to be conscious of safety. So how's that reflected in the solo women's travel industry?
They know that is a big issue, and they address it, all of these agencies. I like the women-owned ones versus just a big travel agency with a male leadership, because the women leadership, they're going to be thinking of that. I feel like the men's companies are just capitalizing on this big market share that's going up on women's travel.
I mean, women are just going to understand in their bones the safety and the safety aspect of things.
Yeah. And we are conditioned as well as women to be told that we can't do those things unless we have a man with us to protect us.
But again, like lots of personal tips and tricks from women who are documenting their travel. Women are great at like sharing what it is that they do to keep themselves safe.
And I'm sure there's going to be a backlash as women venture out around the world without a man by their side.
Women who travel obviously have the income to do it. And so that tells you a little bit about that women are acquiring enough money, enough loose change to travel around. And it tells you something about like how women overall are doing, I think. And that's, for the patriarchy, this is like superfluous activities, useless things that women do instead of marrying and having children. You're not being a sex object. You're not being a mom. You're not being a wife. And you're not being a grandmother, perhaps.
Right.
So you're not employed in the service of men. And so that makes you superfluous woman. I think there's an element like you're just living for yourself, and that somehow is not what you're supposed to do, living for your own enjoyment or freedom or experience.
They're probably very angry that we're kind of breaking through this old paradigm.
That actually reminded me of, I don't know if you saw Pamela Anderson, and she like nearly broke the internet, daring to go to the Met Gala at her natural age, appearing to be a 57-year-old woman that she is. People are losing their minds that she is just leaving herself alone. You know what I mean? That she's not having the plastic surgery, and she's not looking for a man, and she's not doing any of the things that you're supposed to do. And people are just absolutely losing their mind over her, like exercising her autonomous freedom in public.
She must just be fascinated by this response.
Yeah.
Because she really holds a mirror up to our society and our culture.
I think she's baller. So
yes.
Love me some Pamela Anderson.
I agree. And, you know, men, I don't think they can believe that women would want to be single by choice.
Yeah, so true. I think TikToker Jannah Santana is onto something in this next clip.
But I was thinking the other day, and I think about this a lot, and I think about why so many men are angry at women that are happy to be child-free and single, and the biggest insult they can offer us is you're going to die alone with cats or dogs or some kind of pet. And I see so many women rejoicing in this and being like, fuck yeah, pets, no children, no commitment, no raising a man like a second child. Where is the point where I'm losing here? This sounds like the ideal situation. And I was thinking to myself, why do these men get so angry? Why do they hate the idea of me doing something by myself in my home alone that has nothing to do with them? And I'll tell you the conclusion I drew from this. It may not fully be the truth, but it's what I think is to be the truth about a lot of misogynistic men. And that is that men really hate their own company, and these types of men, not all men, and that these types of men really don't know how to be alone because the voices in their head are too painful. The trauma, the wounds from childhood, all this stuff comes up. All the things that they don't want to face, that they've constantly ignored since they were children, that comes up, and the silence is too loud. And because the silence is too loud, they can't stand being by themselves. So because women are now very okay with that, we'll often sit in our trauma and our wounds and our pain, or we'll take ourselves to therapy or journal. We might do all of it, and we're very okay with it. The idea of a woman being okay with something they're not, I think they're jealous of. On top of that, if those women are okay with that and they choose to go and be single and not involve themselves with men and not have a partner, that means there's more of these men left over without a woman doing emotional labour for them, which means they're forced to be in their house, in their head.
Just heaps of abuse and threats that men throw at you about this. Is just like, obviously, the cat lady insults and dying alone and the kind of standard abuse that men throw at you.
But it's not working. I think they're starting to realize that all the old tricks that the patriarchy used to throw at us isn't working anymore. We just don't care. And one of those, again, kind of slicing through the myth of being a single mom or single by choice, is this rise in mommunes.
I wish I had a mommune when I was raising my kid.
I know. So it's basically two or more single mothers living together in the household, joining forces under one roof to maximize really time, energy, money. So they share the costs of like resources, yes. They share costs of like the house and the utilities and the groceries, the childcare, even like transportation. They could share a car, you know, if they needed to. Sharing the responsibilities. So they're actually raising the children together. And then they divide childcare. So if one has to go off to work on one day, someone will cover you, you'll cover another day. They share the chores. But a big thing too is this social and emotional support. So after you come out of a relationship, a heterosexual relationship, and you're a single mom, and by the way, 80% of single parent families in the US are headed by mothers, not fathers. To try to make it alone, especially with the kind of inflation and rising prices, and now we've got all this tariff rubbish, financially, many times unsustainable for a woman to have her house. Now, down the road is another woman, a single woman that just got divorced, trying to do it on her own as well.
So why wouldn't you team up? Why wouldn't you pool your resources? It just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're not isolated. You're not feeling lonely. You can go on a date night and someone's got the children. I think I joked about doing that during my years as a single mom. Oh my gosh, we should just live together.
But now it's actually happening. Like, people are actually building networks, especially online, to connect single moms who want to do it together.
Right. So in 2001, CoAbode, that launched, which is a great resource for single moms. They have about 300,000 members over the years of mothers connecting with each other. It's kind of like a matchmaking service to connect you with other single moms in your area. That's just the US. Then you've got Commune, which is co-living for single parents in France. And honestly, it's not a new concept.
No.
Mothers have been house sharing for centuries.
If not millennia. I mean,
True.
Shall we go back to the, matriarchy? Yeah.
I think this whole episode really is about promoting the matriarchy, honestly.
Yes.
It's just subliminal advertising for matriarchal living. And we all know the term. It takes a village to raise a child. We say that, but we don't practice that. We really don't. In 2023, there was a big flurry on mommunes because of a TikToker that went viral. And then all the news agencies picked it up. There's a really thoughtful piece in the New York Times from that time, USA Today, and actually NBC's Today Show did a segment.
You thought, okay, so this will be better for us financially.
Right.
We can share the rent, share the utilities, share the groceries.
Right.
You can help with childcare. I'm at the office, you're at home. Did you think of it also as emotional support? Well,
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I didn't realize that would be such a big benefit of it until we moved in together. There's another adult here that understands what I'm facing, what I'm going through. Like the component that you have in a marriage, but without the romantic piece of it, has been huge.
You can hear that it's a no-brainer to have another woman be your co-parent, like a platonic spouse as such.
So obviously, being a single mother is a tremendous burden, especially in this country where you have no maternal leave, you have no social safety net in case of divorce or becoming a single mom. And so to pool together resources and get support from each other, lightens your burden, obviously.
I want to invite our listeners to let us know if you've been in a mommune situation and a setup. That would be so interesting to hear from you.
I became a single mom when my kid was really young, and mommunes didn't exist back then, but I did seek out other moms who had kids my age, and we did absolutely raise our kids together in New York.
Were they single women too, or
other single moms? We just kind of ganged together, and it wasn't to the level of a mommune, but I don't know what I would have done without my gang of other single moms, honestly.
That's amazing. Anyone can start one. You could start one if you're listening.
Yeah.
You don't have to face this. I mean, I think years ago, women would move back in with their parents if they got a divorce.
Yeah.
Right. Just go back. And then the family would raise the children with you. And I just don't see women doing that today.
I think we're losing some of the shame associated with being a single mother, that women are now kind of opting out of traditional marriage, perhaps, and opting into working with other women much more easily, a little bit less shame around it all.
Oh, for sure. I don't think we were given other options before. I think it really was, you're living with a partner or
you have to go it alone.
Or you have to go it alone.
It's almost as if, that's the punishment for divorce, is that you now get to struggle at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak.
Right. And many women do, especially if they've been out of the workforce. They're literally getting a waitressing job or something and not seeing their kids hardly because they're trying to earn a living and support themselves.
I do think part of why women are opting out of householding with a man or opting out of their marriages or whatever is that they have the economic means to do that now in a way that is really, really new. I don't think we can really appreciate in some sense like how new it is that women are not trapped in economic dependence, and that this really is the first time in millennia that women have, when they hit early adulthood, they're educated, they have employment opportunities, they can get their own apartments, their own cars, and really make their own lives. And this is a new phenomena.
Yeah. As women, we've tasted this freedom and expansion, and there's no going back.
No, there's no going back.
Sorry, Trump administration and trad wife supporters, there's no going back.
You can try to romanticize traditional marriage all you want, but in fact, there are some creators who talks about what it is like to say no to the labor of either dating or being in relationships and what the upsides are. Here's ChloBow.
Day in the life of a woman who's dating herself. I'm 32 years old, single, and I love myself and my life so much that the idea of searching for a man to partner with feels like a death sentence for my peace and freedom. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think dating men is a terrible investment for women, because where else do you pour in so much time, energy, money, and emotional labor for almost nothing in return? We spend hours scrolling, swiping, interviewing, entertaining, decoding text, and psychoanalyzing behavior, all for what? What exactly is the prize? Being emotionally neglected? Doing free therapy? Accepting the bare minimum as effort, being sexually disappointed or worse, violated, teaching basic empathy. What's the saying? Doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result is the definition of crazy. I think as women, we're in the find out stage of fuck around and find out, as many of us continue to waste our lives bending over backwards or shrinking ourselves over the myth that a man will take us out of our misery, because the reality is that the only person who will give you everything is yourself.
Not the least of which is the lowering of stress that living in a relationship with a man brings. I don't think we talk enough about that.
True. So let's say you're not coming out of a marriage, you're not a single mom. Why would women, just single women, choose single by choice? And what are the benefits of living alone, living solo?
Yeah, let's hear what Katie Calm and Collected has to say about that.
Do you know women's cortisol levels drop 35% when they've been living by themselves for 3 months or longer? This is done by research by Joe Dispenza, and I can tell you, after being in partnership and living with men for so many years now, and now living on my own in my own apartment, I have never felt peace like this in my life. And this is not a slander against men or anything. I'm just telling you, the peace that I feel right now is unmatched. I feel like I can think. I feel like when I'm out in public, I'm more relaxed. I'm walking more confidently. I'm walking slower. I feel clearer about what I want to do with my future. I know what I need to do with my day. I can work longer hours because I'm not so stressed out and caught up in somebody else's mood and what somebody else expects of me. I don't feel like I'm not enough. And that's always how I feel in partnership with a man, especially when I'm living with him. I never feel like I can fully relax at home.
Not having to deal with someone's bad mood, not feel scrutinized or criticized, and the whole sleep issue.
Yes.
Sleeping alone is heaven.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's some women listeners out there that may say, oh, I feel safer having a man sleeping next to me. I'm sure, like if there was an intruder.
Sure.
But as a woman who has lived alone for quite some time now, head of household here, I don't have that fear. I just don't. It is a myth that I had to overcome early in my single parent life. I'm completely fine. I can handle a burglar. And if I'm going to get shot in the night, then that's the end of my life. Now's my time. Every night I go to bed, I'm not thinking about it. I did read a study that women do sleep better without a man.
Shocker.
Yeah. It's funny. I've always had a queen size bed. And when I got divorced, I bought myself a king size bed, which is kind of silly because I sleep all the way to one side of it, and my dogs sleep on the other side.
You have space for your books. You have space for your iPad.
When I was dating a few years back, and it was like, oh, he's going to spend the night the first time, a few months in. He went and got in on my side of the bed, and I said, oh, I sleep on that side of the bed. And he could see that by the things on my nightstand. And he said, oh, well, this is the same side as I sleep. I'd be more comfortable if I'm sleeping on this side. And I moved for that relationship, which was a year and a half. I moved to the wrong side of the bed for me. When he wasn't there, because we weren't living together, when he wasn't there, I would go back to my regular side. But as soon as we split up, after I dumped him, I just I'm moving back to my side of the bed, and slept great after that.
The compromises we make, and just like the joy of having it your own way.
I think there's a lot of women out there, honestly, making life plans, like a new roadmap of living without men, decentering men.
Like Rihanna said, do you know that famous moment with her?
No.
And what are you looking for in the next man?
I'm not looking for a man. Let's start there.
That's kind of where we are, isn't it?
That's the whole episode wrapped up in one little soundbite. She definitely faced, I think, abuse and coercion and all kinds of stuff.
And what was so crazy about that is that she was with Chris Brown, who beat her up in public. And she was the one that got shamed for that. He is doing better than ever, completely recovered his career, his reputation, and everything else. And she was shamed for a long, long time, even lost promotional contract and such because they didn't want to deal with someone who had been the victim of domestic violence. How crazy is that?
And also just how women can take down a man with her words in that way, that his career is important. Hello, Amber Heard and the Johnny Depp trial. Hello, Chanel Miller, what she faced with the college, going to ruin the men's lives if she comes out and says what happened to her. And the Diddy trial that's been ongoing, whether there'll be backlash for her.
Cassie. That's already starting. People are frothing at the mouth to put the blame on her. They really are. And so if there are any lingering questions out there, why we're opting out of, why we're finding each other and opting out of relationships with men, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
There it is.
Right.
Partly.
Yeah. I had a little look and see what are the other options out there for women.
For life planning.
For life planning. And everyone's going to, you're going to live with other women. Let's say if you're going to co-share and live together and not just live alone. People think of it as like the Golden Girls, which is funny because they actually weren't single by choice, those 4 women. 3 were widows. 1 was a divorcee. I mean, it was the 1980s, so they shared the house in Florida. It was a hugely successful show. I love the lyrics to the theme song, which is really about friendship and sisterhood.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, you invited everyone you knew.
It's just so cute.
So cute.
They were almost giving us a little hint at the blueprint of how it could be different, how life after a man could look differently. And Brigg on TikTok, since that post that she made, she got a lot of interest and she created an online forum called the Golden Girl Gang.
So that's like a forum for women to connect with other women who want to live together, yeah?
Not just only live together, but the important thing that she's going for at Golden Girl Gang is buying land together, that women becoming landowners.
Now you're talking.
I know. That will speak to your heart. I know. So, yeah, it's great. We'll link Golden Girl Gang below for you. The whole baby boomer age group.
Yeah, which is a large population.
It's big. It's still big. I think the largest. So they're currently 61 to 79 years old. If they're not in retirement, they are heading there soon. And, you know, they're trying to combat adult loneliness.
Sure.
Obviously, that got exacerbated during COVID.
There are a lot of people who are alone. We all live such atomized lives. We're all in our little cells.
Especially in this country versus other countries, 27% of adults over 60 live alone. That's much higher than the rest of the world, which is about 16%. But women outlive men, as we know. The growing population of older women, they don't actually have to live alone. There's a cute term called the boom mates. So, you know, having a roommate that's a baby boomer age. And you have to think about it too for women. Your earning power goes down exponentially for women by late 40s, early 50s. You're on the downhill. That's not the same for men, the trajectory. You do have to think, how am I going to support myself? And am I going to be alone, or will I go into some kind of co-housing arrangement?
Yeah.
Which, the same as the Mommune, is really gathering and maximizing resources as well as addressing the loneliness epidemic.
I feel like I've heard from many friends who are married or with a partner saying things like, if this ends for whatever reason, by death or divorce, I'm not getting into another relationship. I'm living with women.
Oh, I love that.
I've heard that for years.
Yeah. I mean, co-housing communities, it's really a Danish housing model. So you're mixing people's needs for their own space in private homes with having a shared facility, and then you get to encourage social interaction. So you can have your own house or even mini house, but you're part of a community that's across the road or apartment, and there's communal spaces that you can do things together. It really feels like it's like a modern day tribe. Like we're recreating the tribe.
Yeah, or the village, village life. Yeah, tribal village life, which is what we need, what we all need.
Yeah. Yeah, you think how separate everybody is and how we've been, again, conditioned to just, this is my home, this is my space, and we are disconnected. Technologically speaking, we are more connected than ever, but we are also, as a species, more disconnected than ever.
We're living in ways that our bodies weren't made for, and I think there's a lot about that we physically just miss, that we're not having face-to-face conversations, for example. Our faces and facial expressions evolved to read another human's face 3 feet away from us. And we don't do that.
No.
We don't live like that anymore. So like in some very important ways, we're not living in the way that our biology evolved to live.
That's so true. And the people that are in these kind of tiny living communities or even like co-op housing. That's one thing that they all report about, that they didn't realize how life-changing that would be for them to have this interaction on a regular basis, not, oh, let's make a date in a couple of months let's go out for dinner together, or do you want to come over? You don't. It's just like the doors are open. It's dropping in, stopping for a cup of tea or something. It's constant social engagement.
Yeah, so important. I think our understanding of community is not like having these like super intimate best friends. It's really having a rather large group of people like hold you in some sense.
Yeah. There's in Houston, it's actually opening this year. It's called Co-Housing Houston. It is co-ed. It's not just women. It is a small living community. It was built with that in mind. It's like shared dining, these common spaces. Actually, I have to say, going to the name of our show, Chat in the Commons, all of these communities, and they have like a little green grass commons that you can go meet people on the commons. I have to share one group that I stumbled across in London. It is an older women's co-housing group. That's what it's called, actually. OWCH, Older Women's Co-Housing. And they came up with the idea 18 years ago, and they built a purpose-built flat community right in North London that's just for aging women.
I like the idea of we all look after each other and we can do things for each other, in sickness and in health and all that. But and just sharing things. Like I used to get fed up with gardening, but if you're doing it with other people, it's more fun. You can join in with what's going on, but then you can close your door and be on your own. Yeah, it just feels like home right away.
That's great.
I know. Imagine if you had these all over the place, like every city had this older women's housing community, shared housing community. Keep people out of, number one, nursing homes as they get older, and also just not having to have your adult children take care of you, not move into like a granny annex, which we have in England. Do you have those in Scandinavia?
No. We put our elders in elder homes like the moment we can. It's really not a good life for elder women. But, it made me think of when you talked about that community, is that women are really good at creating community. And I think that's a little bit why men are mystified at why single women are not as lonely as they think they might be, is because we have a very easy time connecting with other women and making community for ourselves.
But hold on a minute. In their minds, they think that they are the sex that gets to build the cities and build out new communities.
Build society. That's
kind of bursting their bubble a little bit, I think.
Yeah, but society is not a bunch of buildings. Society are not streets and roadways. Society is people. That's what women do well, I think, is make society by connecting with one another.
And I think that's only going to continue to soar, women connecting and coming up with solutions of very practical ways to gather and organize.
Yeah.
And Julie Baldino has an app launching any day. It may have actually launched already, called Fempowerment.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that has the purpose of connecting women for all sorts of reasons. Actually, she's got a little pitch.
I am launching with a friend an app called the Fempowerment App, and this is an app that connects women to share resources, anything from like communal living and cohabitation to legal partnership if somebody needs health insurance and somebody needs housing, or you want to buy property together or whatever, all the way to little things like childcare sharing or pet sitting or gardening in exchange for food prep or whatever we need. And the reason this app was dreamed up, part of the reason, is because I'm going through a separation and divorce. And I have met a lot of women who are in similar situations that are stuck because they do not have the resources to get out. Luckily for me, I do. But a lot of women are stuck in marriages and can't get out because they are worried about housing, or they are worried about being able to pay an attorney. And my thought process was, well, if I can take this expense off their plate, then they can afford an attorney. Or if we can take this chore off their plate, then they'll have the time and energy to think about it. Or if they don't have to worry about stable housing because maybe they're cohabitating with another single mom or sharing housing, then maybe they aren't scared to leave their marriage that they're in.
That's the future.
That's the future.
Right there.
Anybody that is trapped, as she says, in a marriage, that you have options. You can join the app and you can actually have a plan to live and thrive. And that's the key part, thriving.
I'm happy for us as women that this wellspring of creative problem solving is happening. Women are just getting to the issue of like, how do we, if we're opting out of marriage and we don't want to be trapped in servitude to men, then what are other ways of solving our lives? And like ants, women are just dragging their ideas to the anthill and building new things, building new structures, new ways of living our lives.
We will find a way, and that is becoming very obvious in real time.
Yeah.
In real time.
Yeah.
Please, if you have comments on this, we really, really encourage you. We would love to get conversation going on everything we talked about today.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant.
Before we sign off, we have our segment from the Commons.
We get feedback from listeners, and on this segment, I want to talk to you about an email we got from Leanne Burns in response to our episode 2, which was a lot about domestic violence. And Leanne Burns is Canadian domestic violence expert, really. And she had some things to add to our conversation.
I'll read her email. Your claim that abusive men don't care about criminal charges is not accurate. Some, often the most lethally dangerous, don't, but others do. Understanding such nuance is critical to tailoring responses to who we are dealing with. What we have learned over time is that risk is dynamic and can vary over time. That is why we continue to rely on women leaving homes where the perpetrators confine them, at least until we can assess his response and the related risk.
I so appreciate Leanne's input because it is an important point. And she's right. There are plenty of domestic violence offenders who do care about the things that happen to them, who do care that they get sent to jail or get sent to a program, and who are ashamed. And so I think it was an overly general statement that I made, which was that these offenders don't care about the law and they don't care about being punished. And Leanne is absolutely right. Some men do. There is a part of the domestic violence offender population that absolutely cares and who can be sanctioned and who will kind of improve their behavior. But I'm glad that she added that the most lethally dangerous don't. And that's also true. And I think that's kind of what I was thinking about when I said that, was that, the people who are that psychopathic or who are that violent.
Yeah, exactly. A sociopath.
They're not going to care about you taking them to court or threatening with a restraining order or any of those things.
Leanne had one more comment, which I'm going to read, which is, I agree that the violence against women sector or industrial complex has largely lost sight of the goal of ending violence against women. But the evidence is also really clear that a strong, autonomous women's movement is the most important and effective variable in ending violence against women.
Yeah, and that I really appreciate, obviously, just kind of amen to that, you know?
Yes.
We know that the domestic violence industrial complex is not successful in ending domestic violence. We know that. The evidence is everywhere.
Yeah.
And that women coming together in a cohesive movement to end it is the only thing that will.
That's right. Hold the line. Thanks to Leanne for your feedback, and any of our listeners, if you had some thoughts after you listened to today's episode, please drop us an email or send us a DM in social media, and we would love to include you on a future From the Commons segment. All right. Signing out.
Signing off. Okay. Bye. Thank you for listening to Chat in the Commons. We would love to hear from you about anything we talked about on this episode. You can reach us via our social media or on our website, chatinthecommons.com. You can also find links to all the resources mentioned in the episode in the show notes below.
If you like what we're doing here, please share with all your friends. And the best way to support our work is to give us a 5-star rating and positive review on your podcast app.
Chat in the Commons is produced by me, Elle Kamihira, and Natalie Blundell. Audio engineering by Jason Sheasley at Abridged Audio. Artwork by Rita Dominguez. Music by Mushumi.